There is a moment a lot of people know too well. You reach for your phone and you already know you should not. You hover over the app and your thumb hesitates for half a second. Then a thought shows up, smooth and familiar. It's fine, just for a minute. You were about to pray for real, not the quick one you toss up while walking. You were about to send the apology. You were about to shut the tab and stop feeding the habit. Same thing happens. Not today. That is what makes it unsettling. It never sounds like a threat. It sounds like a reasonable version of you. Give me a few minutes and you will start noticing when that voice is steering you and where it has been trying to take you. Here's a simple way to test it when it shows up. Look at the timing. Look at what it's trying to pull you away from. Then look at what it produces in you afterward. The voice that leads you toward God might be uncomfortable, but it tends to make you clearer. The voice that keeps you from God usually feels soothing in the moment, then leaves you foggy. You do not feel possessed. You do not feel attacked. You do not feel like you are choosing destruction. You feel like you are choosing comfort. Later turns into a season. A season turns into a version of you that feels normal. You still believe, you still pray sometimes, you still feel guilty at the right moments, but you are not moving. And the voice does not have to convince you to hate God. It just has to keep you from responding to Him. There is a difference between rest that restores you and rest that numbs you. You have felt both. One makes you clearer, the other makes you dull. And dullness is dangerous because nothing feels urgent anymore. You can live a long time in that state, busy, functional, even religious, asleep. People talk about temptation like it's a one size fits all. It's not. Deception is personal. It uses your wiring. For one person, it is pleasure. For another, it's control. For another, it's simply being wanted. The bait changes based on what you are starving for. And if you are wounded, it does not ignore that. It speaks through it. Your past becomes a permission slip. Ignored people chase being seen, and they call it confidence. Betrayed people start reading danger into everything, and they call it discernment. Shamed people learn to curate a version of themselves that never gets rejected. Hurt people keep reaching for numbness because numbness does not disappoint. Sometimes the trap is not even a thing you do. Sometimes it's what you accept as true about yourself. You cannot change. God is tired of you. This is just how you are. You already ruined it, so what's the point now? Those thoughts feel like realism. They can even feel humble, like you're being honest about your weaknesses. But hopelessness is not humility. Hopelessness is a slow surrender. It quietly convinces you there is no point in reaching for God. You will stay where you are. That is a quiet kind of captivity. You are not chained to a wall. You are chained to a story. A story that always ends the same way. So you stop trying. You start calling it maturity. You start calling it being tired. You start calling it being at peace. But the fruit of it is always the same. You grow colder toward God and smaller toward life. And if you're thinking, this is just me, that is exactly why it keeps working. Because the most effective deception is the one you never label as deception. Most people do not realize they have been agreeing with it for years. Some people here talk about spiritual warfare and assume it means you blame everything on demons. That is not what this is. This is about recognizing that not every thought deserves your trust. Scripture gives one of the clearest explanations for why deception is so convincing. And no wonder, for Satan himself transforms himself into an angel of light. An angel of light. Light is what you follow when you want direction. Light is what you trust when you are trying not to get hurt. That verse is saying something simple. Deception rarely feels like darkness while it's happening. It can sound like wisdom. It can sound protective. It can sound like compassion. It can even borrow spiritual language. You will hear things like, God understands. And it's true. He does. Then the thought keeps going. It uses that truth like a blanket. It starts covering what it was never meant to cover. Or it will bring up grace and you almost feel relieved until you realize you're using grace to stay the same. Sometimes it sounds softer than that. You're only human. You have been through a lot. Take a break, and rest is real. Compassion is real. The problem is what it's trying to buy with those words. Sometimes those phrases carry a piece of truth, and that is exactly why they work. A lie that is pure nonsense does not survive long. So it borrows truth, then steers it. It takes grace and turns it into an excuse. It takes patience and turns it into delay. It takes rest and turns it into avoidance. And because it feels reasonable, you rarely stop and ask where it's taking you. The disguise works best when it feels like it belongs in your mind. Here's where things get uncomfortable, but stay with me. A lot of people are not held by chains as much as they are held by agreements. You keep agreeing with shame. You keep agreeing with fear. You keep agreeing with the idea that obedience will cost too much. It often starts small. A thought you never challenge. You hear it and you let it pass because it sounds familiar. This is just who I am. I can stop whenever I want. God will forgive it anyways, so it's not that serious. That is how an agreement forms, quietly, like a signature you do not remember signing. Then it becomes automatic. You get a moment of peace, and the voice rushes to interpret it before you can enjoy it. You take a step toward God, and suddenly you feel a strange heaviness you cannot explain. You try to change, and a part of you starts arguing for the old version of you. It's not always loud. It's steady. It keeps trying to put space between you and God, any way it can. That is why the Bible's command is not panic, it's clarity. Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, walks about like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. Sober means clear-minded. Vigilant means you pay attention. This is instruction to stop sleepwalking, because once you start noticing patterns, the pattern loses its spell. Deception depends on you moving through life on autopilot. Awareness breaks autopilot. Some people give the enemy too much credit. They talk about him like he has equal power to God, like you're stuck in some cosmic tug of war. Scripture does not describe it that way. Having disarmed principalities and powers, he made a public spectacle of them, triumphing over them in it. Disarmed. That word is not poetic. It's legal. It's authority language. Stripped. Christ did not survive darkness. He defeated it. So the enemy's main tool is not ownership, it's influence. He tries to confuse you, distract you, drain you, keep you arguing with your own obedience until you quit. Influence collapses when you stop cooperating with it. That is why Scripture gives such a direct instruction. Therefore, submit to God, resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Flee. He does not negotiate. He does not hold court. He retreats. Submission to God cuts off the leverage. Resistance is not screaming at the air. Resistance is refusing agreement with lies that have been living rent-free in your head. It is naming the pattern. It's bringing it into the light. It is doing the next obedient thing, even when you do not feel like it. Sometimes the moment you start obeying, everything inside you gets louder. That does not automatically mean God is against you. Sometimes it means the chain is losing tension, and it does not like it. This is not a message meant to make you stare at darkness all day. It's a message meant to help you stop pretending it's not there. You do not need obsession. You need clarity. Clarity does not mean you start accusing everything of being demonic. It means you stop handing the steering wheel to every impulse that knocks. Because the goal is not to become afraid of the devil. The goal is to become steady in God. If you have been hearing that voice that always seems to benefit your comfort, but never your growth, you do not have to panic. You have to get honest, bringing it into the light. A lot of the enemy's influence disappears the moment it's exposed, because the disguise is the main weapon. And Christ does not offer you survival. He offers life. The thief does not come except to steal and to kill and to destroy. I have come that they may have life, and that they may have it more abundantly. Some paths keep shrinking you until you forget you were ever different. Christ leads you toward life that feels like life, not just coping. So ask yourself this, quietly, without performing. What thought keeps showing up right before you were about to obey God? What excuse keeps arriving with perfect timing? What habit keeps promising relief and leaving you emptier? Then do the next right thing. Not the dramatic thing, the obedient thing. Submit to God. Resist the devil. He will flee. That is not hype. That is not a mantra. That is scripture. And if you belong to Christ, you are not the prey. You are not trapped in a loop forever. You're waking up. This is In Luminance, where we bring the gospel into dark places.